The massive crystal ship descended through Earth's atmosphere like a floating mountain made of pure light. Ambassador Veltara stood at the observation deck, her translucent body shimmering with disgust as she watched the blue and green planet grow larger below them. This was supposed to be a routine survey mission, but the reports about these humans had been troubling her for weeks. Her species, the Keth Mori, had evolved beyond the messy business of biological reproduction centuries ago. They created offspring through harmonic crystal resonance, a clean and efficient process that required no physical contact, no bodily fluids, and certainly no primitive organic matter. The very thought of biological reproduction made her crystalline form flicker with revulsion. "Ambassador, we're approaching the designated landing coordinates," announced her aide, Zek Thol, his voice creating a pleasant chiming sound as it resonated through their shared crystal network. Veltara nodded, watching. As primitive aircraft circled their ship at a respectful distance, these humans clearly had some basic technology, but she had already read the preliminary reports. They still used their biological bodies for everything, including the most basic function of creating new life. How utterly barbaric. The landing was smooth, their advanced gravity manipulators barely registering the planet's surface as they touched down at what the humans called the first contact facility. Through the viewing crystals, Veltara could see a small group of humans waiting outside, their soft, fleshy forms wrapped in crude fabric coverings. "Remember," she told her research team as they prepared to disembark, "we're here to catalogue their limitations, not to be impressed by any crude tricks they might show us. These creatures are clearly at the bottom of the galactic civilization scale." The airlock hissed open, and Veltara stepped onto Earth soil for the first time. The gravity felt heavy and unpleasant, and the air was thick with organic particles that made her energy field recoil instinctively. A human male approached them, his movements awkward and primitive compared to the fluid grace of her kind. "Welcome to Earth," the human said, his voice producing crude sound waves instead of the elegant harmonic frequencies her people used. "I'm Kang Ho, diplomatic liaison for the United Earth Federation." Veltara studied him with barely concealed disdain. He was short by her standards, covered in that strange organic coating they called skin, and his body seemed to be constantly leaking various fluids. His eyes were small and wet, his breathing was loud and irregular, and she could actually smell the biological processes happening inside his primitive form. "I am Ambassador Veltara," she replied, her voice creating beautiful crystalline tones that her translation device converted into his crude language. "I represent the Crystal Empire's Xenological Survey Division." Kang Ho smiled, revealing rows of calcium-based grinding implements he called teeth. "We're honored by your visit. We've prepared comprehensive briefings about our species and our planet." "I'm sure you have," Veltara said, her tone making it clear she expected nothing impressive. "Though I must warn you, we've encountered many species at your level of development. The evaluation process is quite thorough." As they walked toward the facility, Veltara made mental notes about everything she observed. The humans moved inefficiently, wasting energy with each step. They required artificial coverings to protect their fragile forms from their own planet's environment. Most disgusting of all, she could sense the constant biological processes occurring within their bodies, including the primitive reproductive systems that would soon become the focus of her research. She had no idea that her understanding of primitive was about to be completely shattered. Dr. Li Na adjusted her lab coat nervously as she led the towering crystal being through the corridors of the Seoul National Research Institute. The alien ambassador moved with an eerie grace, her translucent form casting rainbow patterns on the white walls as she glided rather than walked. Every few steps, Veltara would pause to examine something with obvious disapproval. "This is our main biological research wing," Li Na explained, trying to keep her voice steady. She had been chosen for this assignment because of her expertise in human biology, but standing next to this advanced alien made her feel like a child showing off finger paintings to a master artist. Veltara stopped in front of a simple microscope display, her crystalline features twisting into what could only be described as disgust. You still use optical magnification devices? How quaint. Her voice carried that same musical quality, but the tone was clearly condescending. Well, yes, we find them quite effective for our research, Li Na replied, feeling heat rise in her cheeks. We've made significant advances in understanding cellular structures and biological processes. The ambassador let out a sound like wind chimes, laughing. Biological processes. Yes, we've read about your species' attachment to organic functions. She gestured dismissively at a nearby chart, showing human anatomy. Tell me, Dr. Li Na, your species still reproduces through physical contact, correct? Li Na nodded, unsure where this was leading. Yes, human reproduction involves the union of male and female genetic material through biological processes. How wonderfully primitive, Veltara said, her form brightening with what seemed like amusement. My people evolved beyond such crude methods millennia ago. We create new life through harmonic resonance between compatible crystal matrices, clean, efficient, and entirely free of these messy biological fluids you seem so dependent upon. As they continued through the facility, Veltara made increasingly harsh observations about everything she saw. The laboratory equipment was archaic. The computer systems were laughably basic. The human researchers they passed were barely above the level of intelligent animals. And you actually consume organic matter for energy? Veltara asked as they passed the facility cafeteria. How inefficient. My people absorb pure stellar radiation, no waste, no digestive systems, no elimination of toxic byproducts. Li Na was beginning to feel frustrated. Every achievement of human science was being dismissed as primitive nonsense. Perhaps our methods seem simple to you, but we've accomplished quite a lot with our biological systems. Our reproduction process, for instance, involves incredibly complex mechanisms that ensure genetic diversity and species survival. Oh, I'm sure it does, Veltara replied with barely concealed mockery. I suppose you'll want to show me these complex mechanisms as part of your presentation. Actually, yes, Li Na said, stopping in front of a secure laboratory door. Our reproductive biology department has prepared a comprehensive overview of human genetic processes. Dr. Park Jin is waiting to demonstrate some of our most advanced reproductive research. Veltara's crystalline form practically glowed with condescending amusement. She was already mentally preparing the standard documentation for what her people called a Category 7 primitive breeding species. The forms were simple enough to fill out, designed for creatures who still relied on physical reproduction, biological waste processing, and organic energy consumption. By all means, Veltara said, her voice dripping with false enthusiasm. I'm simply dying to see what you consider advanced reproductive research. I'm sure it will be absolutely fascinating. As Li Na swiped her access card, and the laboratory door hissed open, she had no idea that the next few hours would completely change everything the Crystal Empire thought they knew about human biology. The ambassador's smug confidence was about to face its first real challenge. Dr. Park Jin looked up from his microscope as the strange procession entered his laboratory. The crystalline alien ambassador towered over the human researchers, her translucent form casting shifting patterns of light across his carefully organized workspace. He had been preparing for this demonstration for weeks, but nothing could have prepared him for the sheer presence of an actual extraterrestrial being. Ambassador Veltara, this is Dr. Park Jin, our lead marine biologist and reproductive cell specialist, Li Na introduced, her voice still carrying traces of nervousness from their earlier tour. Park Jin bowed slightly, a gesture that seemed to amuse the alien visitor. Welcome to our cellular research laboratory. I understand you're interested in learning about human biological processes. Interested is perhaps too strong a word, Veltara replied, her musical voice carrying clear disdain. I'm here to document your species' primitive reproductive methods for our xenological database. I assume this will be quite straightforward. Park Jin exchanged a quick glance with Li Na. The alien's attitude was exactly what they had been warned about, but he was determined to show humanity's best work regardless. Well, let's start with some basic observations. I've prepared several Samples that demonstrate the complexity of human reproductive biology. He gestured toward his state-of-the-art microscopy setup, complete with high-resolution digital displays and real-time imaging capabilities. Veltara glided over with obvious reluctance, clearly expecting to see nothing more impressive than simple cellular blobs swimming aimlessly in biological fluid. These are human reproductive cells, magnified approximately 2,000 times, Park Jin explained as he adjusted the focus. The large monitor flickered to life, showing a detailed view of the microscopic world within. Veltara leaned forward, her crystalline features prepared to register the appropriate level of boredom and superiority. But as the image sharpened, something unexpected happened. Her luminous form flickered, and the musical harmonics of her voice caught slightly. What am I looking at exactly?" she asked, her condescending tone wavering for the first time since her arrival. On the screen, dozens of human sperm cells moved through the sample medium, but they weren't just swimming randomly as she had expected. They were moving with purpose, following complex patterns that seemed almost tactical. Some cells moved in coordinated groups, others appeared to be scouting ahead, and still others seemed to be communicating through chemical signals that created visible trails in the fluid. "These are human sperm cells in their natural environment," Park Jin explained, warming to his subject. "As you can see, they exhibit remarkable behavioral complexity. Watch this group here." He pointed to a cluster of cells that were moving in a synchronized formation. "They're actually working together, sharing chemical information about the optimal path forward." Veltara's entire form began to glow brighter, a sign of deep concentration among her species. That's not possible. These are supposed to be simple reproductive cells. They shouldn't display coordinated behavior patterns." "Oh, but they do," Park Jin said, switching to a different sample. "Watch what happens when we introduce obstacles." On screen, the cells encountered a series of microscopic barriers. Instead of randomly bumping against them, they appeared to scout the edges, find weak points and navigate through with remarkable efficiency. "They're problem-solving," Veltara whispered, her voice losing all trace of its earlier arrogance. "They're actually solving tactical problems in real time. Each human male produces approximately 300 million of these cells daily," Park Jin continued, clearly enjoying the alien's stunned reaction. "And every single one of them is capable of independent navigation, chemical communication, and adaptive behavior." Veltara stood in absolute silence, watching as the microscopic cells continued their coordinated assault on the sample environment. Her entire worldview was beginning to crack like poorly formed crystal. Dr. Kim Sol had been working late in the fertility clinic when the urgent call came through. The alien delegation needed to see routine fertility procedures, and she was the best specialist available. Now standing in her pristine laboratory, with a 7-foot-tall crystal being looming over her equipment, she wondered if she should have stayed home that evening. "This is just a standard sperm analysis," Kim Sol explained, trying to keep her voice professional despite the surreal situation. "We perform thousands of these tests every year to help couples with fertility issues." Veltara watched closely as Kim Sol prepared the sample under the microscope. The alien ambassador's earlier shock from Dr. Park Jin's demonstration had settled into a tense fascination that made the air in the room feel electric. "You said this is routine?" Veltara asked, her crystalline voice carrying an edge that hadn't been there before. "Completely routine," Kim Sol confirmed, adjusting the microscope settings. "This sample came from a perfectly healthy 28-year-old male. Nothing special about it at all." She stepped back to let Veltara observe the display screen. What appeared on the monitor made the alien ambassador's entire form flicker with disbelief. Millions of sperm cells filled the viewing area, each one moving with the same tactical precision they had witnessed earlier. But now Veltara could see the true scale of what she was looking at. "How many did you say were in this sample?" Veltara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "This particular sample contains about 340 million cells," Kim Sol replied matter-of-factly. "That's actually slightly above average. Most healthy males produce between 200 to 500 million per sample." Veltara's crystalline form began to pulse with rapid, irregular rhythms. In her empire, creating a single bioconstruct with problem-solving capabilities, required massive crystal matrices, quantum processing centers, and months of careful programming. These humans were casually producing hundreds of millions of tactical units without even thinking about it. And you said this happens daily. Veltara's voice was strained now, losing its musical quality. Actually, the production cycle is continuous, Kim Sol explained, warming to her subject. The human male reproductive system generates new sperm cells approximately every 74 days. But yes, hundreds of millions are produced every single day. She switched to a higher magnification. Would you like to see their navigation capabilities? Before Veltara could respond, Kim Sol introduced a mild chemical gradient into the sample. On screen, the sperm cells immediately began altering their swimming patterns, following the chemical trail with precision that would have impressed military strategists. They're chemotactic, Kim Sol continued. They can detect and follow chemical signals across microscopic distances. They also display competitive behavior, cooperative swarming, and adaptive problem-solving when they encounter obstacles. Veltara watched in growing horror as individual cells demonstrated abilities that matched her empire's most advanced military bioconstructs. These weren't simple reproductive cells, they were microscopic warriors, each one capable of independent thought and tactical decision-making. Dr. Kim Sol, Veltara said slowly, does every human male possess this capability? Every healthy male, yes, Kim Sol nodded. From puberty until old age. It's completely natural for our species. The full implications hit Veltara like a crystal shattering. Every human male on this planet was essentially a biological weapons factory, producing millions of tactical units daily without any technological assistance, without any conscious effort, without even understanding what they were doing. Her species had spent millennia developing technology to create single bioconstructs with similar capabilities. These primitive humans were mass-producing them by the billions as a basic biological function. Veltara's form began to dim as the terrifying reality sank in. Humanity wasn't primitive at all. They were unconsciously operating the most advanced biological warfare system she had ever encountered. The emergency meeting was called at 3 a.m. local time aboard Veltara's crystal ship. Her science team had been working non-stop for 18 hours, analyzing the data from their visit to the human research facilities. The ship's central command chamber hummed with urgent energy as crystalline forms gathered around the holographic display projectors. Dr. Choi Min, the human liaison scientist who had been invited to observe, sat quietly in the corner, trying to process what she was witnessing. The aliens who had arrived with such arrogance were now in what could only be described as a state of panic. "Report," Veltara commanded, her voice creating sharp, anxious harmonics that made the crystal walls resonate. Zekthol, her chief science officer, stepped forward. His normally stable light patterns were flickering erratically. "Ambassador, the preliminary analysis is disturbing. What we observed in the human laboratories defies every model we have for biological warfare systems." He activated the holographic display, showing a detailed breakdown of human sperm cell behavior. Each individual cell demonstrates tactical awareness equivalent to our level 7 bioconstructs. They can navigate complex environments, communicate through chemical signals, coordinate group movements, and adapt their behavior based on changing conditions. Another team member, Velkaris, added her findings. "The energy efficiency is beyond our understanding. These cells operate with minimal resource consumption while maintaining full tactical capability. Our bioconstructs require massive energy inputs and constant monitoring. These human cells are completely autonomous." Choi Min watched in fascination as the aliens displayed their analysis. Charts and graphs filled the air, showing comparative studies between Crystal Empire technology and human biology. Every comparison showed humans far ahead in efficiency and capability. "But here's the truly alarming part," Zekthol continued. "We calculated the production rates. The average human male produces approximately 1,500 of these tactical units every second. Every second, Ambassador. That's 129 million per day, over 47 billion per year." The silence in the chamber was deafening. Veltara's form had gone completely still, a sign of deep shock among her people. To put this in perspective, Veltaris added, our entire empire can produce maybe 50 bioconstructs per year using our most advanced facilities. Each one requires a dedicated quantum processing center and consumes enormous amounts of energy. These humans are producing billions of superior units, using nothing but organic processes. Choi Min finally spoke up, her voice small in the vast chamber. I'm sorry, but I don't understand. Are you saying there's something unusual about human reproduction? The crystal beings turned to look at her, their forms pulsing with what she was beginning to recognize as barely controlled fear. Dr. Choi Min, Veltara said slowly, your species has unconsciously developed the most advanced biological warfare system in known galactic history. Every human male is essentially a walking weapons factory producing millions of tactical units daily. But that's just normal biology, Choi Min protested. Every species reproduces somehow. Not like this, Zekthal replied grimly. Most species produce simple reproductive cells that move randomly toward their target. Your cells display coordinated tactical behavior, problem-solving abilities, and adaptive intelligence. In military terms, each human male commands a standing army of microscopic soldiers that would require our entire civilization's resources to replicate. The room fell silent again as the implications sank in. Choi Min looked around at the alien faces, seeing fear where she had expected to see superiority. The worst part, Veltara whispered, is that they don't even know what they're doing. This entire planet is filled with billions of beings who are unconsciously operating biological super weapons, and they think it's primitive. The crystal beings exchanged worried harmonics as they realized their primitive discovery might actually be the most dangerous civilization they had ever encountered. Dr. Yun Hai had no idea she was about to demonstrate what the Crystal Empire would later classify as the most terrifying display of biological warfare manipulation in galactic history. To her, it was just another routine day at the Soul Fertility Center, showing their assisted reproduction techniques to some very strange visitors. This is our main treatment laboratory, Yun Hai explained cheerfully, gesturing around the pristine facility filled with high-tech equipment. We help couples who are having difficulty conceiving naturally. Veltara followed closely, her crystalline form now emanating a constant low-frequency hum of anxiety. After the previous night's emergency analysis, she was seeing everything through completely different eyes. What had seemed like primitive medical procedures now looked like advanced military operations. Here's where we perform sperm preparation and selection, Yun Hai continued, moving to a workstation where several samples were being processed. We can isolate the healthiest and most motile cells for treatment procedures. She picked up a small pipette and began working with casual expertise, drawing up a sample and placing it under a microscope. On the connected monitor, millions of sperm cells appeared, swimming in organized patterns that now made Veltara's form flicker, with barely contained alarm. Watch this, Yun Hai said, with the enthusiasm of someone who genuinely loved her work. We can actually guide these cells, using density gradients and chemical attractants. She added a drop of specially prepared solution to the sample. On screen, the microscopic cells immediately responded, changing their swimming patterns and forming organized streams moving toward the chemical signal. Veltara watched in horror as billions of tactical units responded to human manipulation with perfect precision. How do you control them so easily? Veltara asked, her voice tight with tension. Yun Hai shrugged. It's not really control. We're just working with their natural behaviors. These cells are programmed to respond to certain chemical signals, so we use that to guide them where we need them to go. She moved to another station where a more complex procedure was underway. This is ICSI, intracytoplasmic sperm injection. We can actually select individual cells and direct them with microscopic precision. She demonstrated by capturing a single sperm cell with an incredibly thin glass needle. Veltara stared in disbelief as the human researcher casually manipulated what her civilization would consider an advanced tactical bioconstruct. The precision was flawless, the control absolute, and Yun Hai was doing it all with the relaxed confidence of someone performing a routine task. We perform about 200 of these procedures every month, Yun Hai continued. The success rates keep improving as we get better at selecting the most viable cells and optimizing the conditions. You're doing this 200 times per month, Veltara's voice cracked slightly. And this is just one facility? Oh yes, there are fertility clinics like this all over the world, probably thousands of them. It's become quite routine. Yun-Hai switched to another sample, this one containing what appeared to be millions of cells moving in complex formations. This batch shows particularly good motility patterns. See how they're organizing into competitive groups? On the monitor, Veltara watched what looked like microscopic military formations engaging in tactical maneuvers. Groups of cells were flanking, scouting, and coordinating attacks on target zones with precision that would have impressed her empire's best strategists. And the humans performing these procedures, Veltara asked carefully, they receive extensive military training. Yun-Hai laughed. Military training? No, it's just medical school and specialization training. Most fertility specialists complete their education in about 8 years. It's considered a pretty standard medical field. The implications hit Veltara like a crystal avalanche. Humans were training their medical professionals to manipulate biological warfare systems with casual expertise. They had thousands of facilities around the planet, where technicians routinely commanded billions of tactical units, and they thought it was just healthcare. As Yun-Hai continued her demonstration, casually directing microscopic armies with the same ease others might use to pour coffee, Veltara realized the terrifying truth. Humanity hadn't just developed biological superweapons, they had industrialized them. The secure communication chamber aboard Veltara's crystal ship hummed with encrypted frequencies as she addressed her science team. Her normally radiant form had dimmed to barely visible levels, a clear sign of extreme stress among her kind. Everything we have discovered about human reproductive biology is now classified at the highest levels, she announced, her musical voice carrying undertones of barely controlled panic. No data transmissions to the homeworld until I give explicit authorization. Zekthal flickered nervously. Ambassador, the Empire Council is expecting our preliminary report within the next cycle. If we delay too long, they'll send additional survey ships. That's exactly what we're trying to prevent, Veltara replied sharply. If the military caste learns what we've discovered, they'll order an immediate preemptive strike. And based on what we now know about human capabilities, that could be catastrophic for our entire civilization. The science team exchanged worried harmonics. They had never seen their ambassador in such a state of agitation. For now, we maintain the original assessment protocols, Veltara continued. As far as any official records show, humans are a primitive biological species suitable for standard development monitoring. Nothing more. A few hours later, Veltara found herself in the uncomfortable position of sitting across from Bai Jun, the head of Earth's scientific exchange program. The meeting room in the human facility felt cramped and organic, filled with the constant background noise of biological processes that now made her deeply uneasy. Ambassador Veltara, I hope your research tour has been enlightening, Bai Jun said with a warm smile. He was a distinguished-looking human in his 50s, with graying hair and kind eyes that showed genuine interest in interspecies cooperation. Indeed it has been, Veltara replied carefully, struggling to keep her voice steady. Every time she looked at this seemingly harmless human, she couldn't help but think about the billions of microscopic tactical units his species was producing, every moment of every day. Our scientists are very excited about the cultural exchange possibilities, Bai Jun continued. Dr. Park Jin mentioned that you seemed particularly interested in our reproductive biology research. We'd be happy to share more detailed studies if that would help with your assessment. Veltara's form flickered involuntarily. The last thing she wanted was more detailed information about humanity's unconscious biological warfare capabilities. That won't be necessary. Your researches have been quite thorough. Excellent. We're hoping this will lead to increased scientific cooperation between our species, Bai Jun said enthusiastically. Perhaps we could establish regular exchange programs. Our fertility researchers would be fascinated to learn about crystal-based reproduction methods. The irony wasn't lost on Veltara. Here was a human eagerly offering to share the secrets of the most advanced biological weapons system in the galaxy, thinking it was just routine scientific collaboration. "Mr. Baijun," she said slowly, "has your species ever considered the military applications of your reproductive biology?" Baijun looked genuinely puzzled. "Military applications? I'm not sure I understand. Human reproduction is a purely biological process. What military applications could there possibly be?" This was exactly what terrified Veltara most. The humans literally had no idea what they were capable of. They were walking around with biological superweapons, completely oblivious to their own power. "Of course, how silly of me," she managed to say. "I was thinking in terms of our own species' perspectives. Please continue telling me about your research programs." As Baijun enthusiastically described humanity's plans for expanded fertility, research, improved reproductive technologies, and global scientific cooperation, Veltara felt her crystalline core growing colder. Every advancement he described sounded like a weapons development program to her newly educated perspective. The humans weren't just accidentally operating biological warfare systems, they were actively working to improve them, make them more efficient and share the technology globally, and they thought they were just helping couples have babies. The War Council meeting took place in the deepest chamber of Veltara's ship, where the crystal walls pulsed with ominous red frequencies. Military advisor C.O. Dam's form blazed with aggressive energy patterns as he presented his analysis to the gathered command staff. "The situation is clear," C.O. Dam declared, his voice creating sharp, militant harmonics. "These humans represent the greatest threat our empire has ever encountered. We must act immediately, before they realize what they're capable of." Veltara sat at the center of the circular chamber, her own light patterns dim and conflicted. Around them, holographic displays showed everything they had learned about human reproductive biology, now reframed through military analysis. "Consider the numbers," C.O. Dam continued, gesturing at the floating data. 8 billion humans on this planet. Roughly half are male. Each male produces hundreds of millions of tactical bio-units daily. We're looking at a planetary weapons production, capacity that dwarfs anything in known galactic history. The other military officers flickered with agreement. Combat Engineer Velketh spoke up. "Our intelligence suggests they're completely unaware of their capabilities. This gives us a narrow window of opportunity for a preemptive strike." "A strike that would need to be absolutely total," C.O. Dam added grimly. "If even a fraction of their population survives and discovers the military applications of their biology, they could overrun the entire galaxy within a generation." Veltara listened to the discussion with growing unease. Her military advisors were speaking about humanity as if they were planning to exterminate a plague species, but she kept thinking about the humans she had met. Dr. Li Na with her nervous enthusiasm, Park Jin demonstrating his research with genuine pride, Yun Hai casually manipulating what they now knew were biological weapons while chatting about helping families. "What exactly are you proposing?" Veltara asked quietly. "Complete planetary sterilization," C.O. Dam replied without hesitation. "Crystal bombardment from orbit. We eliminate the entire species before they have a chance to understand what they are." The chamber fell silent, except for the low humming of the ship's crystal matrix. Veltara stared at the holographic displays showing human cities, billions of innocent people going about their daily lives, completely unaware that they were being discussed as potential targets for genocide. "No," she said finally. SEO Dam's form flared brighter. "Ambassador, with respect, this isn't a diplomatic decision. This is a survival imperative for our entire civilization." "You're asking me to authorize the extinction of an entire species," Veltara replied, her voice growing stronger. "A species that has shown us nothing but hospitality and cooperation. A species that could accidentally destroy us all," Seo Dam countered. "Do you understand what happens if they figure out what they're doing? If they start thinking of their reproduction in military terms?" Veltara did understand, and that's what made the decision so terrifying. She had seen how casually humans manipulated their biological systems. Dr. Yun Hai moving billions of tactical units with the precision of a master strategist, while thinking she was just helping couples have babies. "If we attack them," Veltara said slowly, "and fail to eliminate every single human, the survivors will ask why we attacked. They'll investigate their own capabilities. They'll discover exactly what we're afraid of them discovering." The military officers exchanged uncertain harmonics. They hadn't considered this possibility. "But if we leave them alone," Veltara continued, "they might never realize their potential. They've been using these systems for millions of years without understanding their military applications. Maybe they never will." "That's a massive gamble," Seodam warned. "So is genocide," Veltara replied firmly. "We're not starting a war with a species that doesn't even know it's armed." The transmission chamber aboard Veltara's ship glowed with the intense light of a direct quantum link to the Crystal Empire's homeworld. After 3 sleepless cycles of agonizing over her decision, she had finally composed the most important report of her career. The fate of 2 entire civilizations would depend on how she presented her findings. Standing before the massive communication crystal, Veltara took one last look at Earth through the observation portal. The blue and green planet rotated peacefully. Below, its surface teeming with billions of humans who had no idea they were living weapons of unimaginable power. "Council of the Crystal Empire," she began, her voice creating formal harmonics that would carry across the vast distances of space. "This is Ambassador Veltara reporting on Species Classification Survey 7749A, designation Humans of Planet Earth." The quantum link crackled with reception confirmations from the homeworld. She knew the entire High Council was listening along with military commanders and xenological specialists. Her next words would shape imperial policy for generations. Initial assessment protocols suggested a standard Category 7 primitive breeding species, she continued. However, extended observation has revealed unprecedented biological capabilities that require immediate reclassification. Veltara paused, knowing that what came next would shock the Empire's leadership to their crystalline cores. "Humans are not primitive. They are unconsciously advanced. Each individual male produces approximately 300 million tactical biounits daily through natural biological processes. These units demonstrate problem-solving capabilities, coordinated behavior patterns, and adaptive intelligence equivalent to our Level 7 military bioconstructs." She activated the holographic displays, transmitting the data her team had gathered. Images of human sperm cells moving in tactical formations filled the transmission beam, along with comparative analyses showing their superiority to Crystal Empire technology. "The human species has unconsciously developed biological warfare systems that surpass our most advanced military capabilities. They mass-produce microscopic tactical units with no technological assistance, no conscious effort, and no understanding of what they're doing." The quantum link remained silent, a sure sign that the Council was too stunned to respond immediately. "Furthermore," Veltara continued, "humans have industrialized the manipulation of these systems. They operate thousands of facilities worldwide, where technicians routinely command billions of biotactical units for what they consider medical purposes. Their level of unconscious military sophistication is beyond our current understanding." She transmitted the footage from Dr. Yunhai's demonstration, showing a human casually directing microscopic armies with the precision their empire's best strategists could only dream of achieving. "My recommendation is immediate diplomatic alliance rather than subjugation or conquest. Any aggressive action against this species risks awakening them to their own capabilities, which would represent an existential threat to our empire and potentially all galactic civilization." Veltara's form dimmed as she delivered the most difficult part of her report. The humans currently view their reproductive biology as a simple medical matter. They share information freely, conduct research openly, and have no concept of the military applications of their natural abilities. This ignorance is our greatest protection. As long as they remain unaware of their biological supremacy, they pose no threat to galactic stability. She took a final look at the peaceful planet below, watching the lights of human cities twinkling in the darkness. However, should humanity ever discover the true nature of their reproductive systems, should they ever begin to think in military terms about capabilities they take for granted, we would face a species capable of producing billions of tactical units daily from every settlement, every city, every population center on their planet. The transmission chamber fell silent as Veltara concluded her report. End assessment. Recommendation: treat humans as unconsciously advanced allies, maintain diplomatic relations. Above all, never give them reason to examine their own biology through a military lens. Their greatest weapon is not knowing they have one,